Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today I'm doing a little different video than some of the ones I've done in the past. And I'm going to start a new series here to go along with some of the other videos I've done. And this one's going to highlight the top 10 of different subjects using cards within my collection. Because I'm a big believer, I like the acquisition, but I really enjoy and love the cards that I already have, and I love showing them and talking about them and things like that. And this series will give me a different way of doing that than some of the other things I've been doing. So this particular top 10, and the reason why I'm doing the top 10, it's inspired by a show I watch all the time, the NFL Top 10, where they do different things like top 10 hands, top 10 defenses, top 10 gunslingers, things like that. So I'm using that theme as a way to do this particular episode. So these are the top 10 cards that symbolize why I got into collecting and why I love sports. So this first one is the 77 Topps Roger Staubach, and I did have this card as a kid. It's not my original one, but it's the same card I had as a kid. And what I like about this card is it reminds me of why I love the Dallas Cowboys when I was growing up. I'm not from Dallas, but they were always on TV when I was a kid. They were the second game in the afternoon. They were on Monday Night Football quite often, so probably like 12 or 13 of their games were on every year. And I was a little too young to remember Roger Staubach real well, but I always every year would tape, when we got a VCR finally, the Super Bowl highlights that they would show on ESPN on the eve of the Super Bowls. And this particular one, when the Cowboys beat the Broncos in '77, was always my favorite, because as a kid I never saw the Cowboys even really play in a Super Bowl that I can remember, let alone win one, until I was much older. And I just remember that episode so well. It started out with the banjo music and was talking about the Broncos season and how energetic they were, and as that music's playing, you have John Facenda's voice, and he would go, "In contrast to Red Miller and his surprising Broncos was the business-like efficiency of Coach Tom Landry and the cool Cowboys of Dallas. They approached the trip to New Orleans with the relaxed attitude of a team that is accustomed to winning. Their hard-charging defense led the National Conference in quarterback sacks and was so devastating in its execution it became known as the Doomsday Machine." And then they would flash on the screen, "Doomsday in the Dome." And then throughout that video, they had the cool scores that NFL Films did. And it was just a awesome video. And I'm just like, wow, I wish I would have saw that game live. So just wanted to highlight that card because that really, something I always remember when I see that card is that highlight film. And then next, of course, is Tom Landry. Did not have this card as a kid, but, he was the symbol of the Cowboys. And I remember when they fired him in 1989, I stopped liking the team for a while because I just loved Tom Landry. 20 consecutive winning seasons. Bill Belichick hasn't broken that record because the Patriots didn't finish over 500 this year. 29 years as the coach. He was the only coach I ever knew growing up, and he was just somebody I thought the world of. Just a great man, great Christian, and just somebody that really inspired me. And then here's Tony Dorsett. He was my favorite player growing up. I would play so much street football and football in the parks with all my friends that I always wore my Tony Dorsett jersey. I would play running back just like him. I just wanted to be exactly like Tony Dorsett. And I remember staying up late on Monday Night Football, I want to say in 82 or 83, when he broke that 99-yard run against the Vikings. And the Vikings had, I believe, too many men on the field, I think it was. Or the Cowboys had one guy too short. I can't remember exactly, but I remember the play so well when he broke that 99-yard run. So he was just somebody that I just thought the world of. I would always say he was better than Walter Payton. I don't believe that now, but he was my guy and I had to defend him back then. So this was a card. I bought so many packs of 81 Topps back then. And this card is when I think of Tony Dorsett, I think of this card. So this is definitely an addition to my collection that I really thoroughly enjoyed having. And then this card here, when I was a kid, my dad had a friend that had all these 59 Topps cards. And this was in the late 80s, or 87, 88, when cards were really becoming big. And my dad got these cards in a big shoebox from his friend, and his friend asked if I would sort through them and put them in pages and get them all set up for him. And I remember seeing this 59 Mantle in there, and it was the first time I ever held a Mickey Mantle in my hand, and I was like, wow. Because Mickey Mantle, he was like synonymous with card collecting even back then. And I just loved this card. So it was one of the first early cards I bought when I got back into collecting in 2000. And since then, my son's a big Mickey Mantle fan too, so I've given this card to him just so he can say that he had the same card as the first card that I held in my hand of Mickey Mantle. Now, of course, it's not the one I held truly in my hand, but it's the same card, so I just wanted to share that with him, and really that's what got me into vintage cards, and I think it's what's going to help with his love and enjoyment of collecting as well. So there's the Mickey Mantle. And this Johnny Unitas. This here is not, again, the card I originally owned, but in 1987, before football hit it really big, I went to a card show at the YMCA and bought this card. It was probably in excellent condition for $25. It was before, again, football cards got really big. And I remember, as I got older, I'd always say, hey, I got a Unitas rookie, I got a Unitas rookie, and it was like the pride and joy of my collection. And then I sold it probably about 25 years ago when I got out of collecting. But I just loved saying I had this card because Unitas was just one of those magical quarterbacks, and it was one of the biggest cards, certainly in the vintage football world. And it was this card that got me into vintage football, which is, I love baseball, but vintage football is really a passion of mine as well. So that was a really cool card. So these are really the cards that got me into vintage baseball and football. Now this card here brings back good memories because my brother and I, we would always sort cards in our rooms, and we'd have them all over the floor. And we'd have this year, 79, we had some 80, 81 cards. We just had cards all over the place in stacks. And we had this little poodle that would, he's a pain in the butt, frankly. And he would come in our room, and he would walk across the cards, and we'd be like, no, get off the cards. It was kind of funny. And then one day he got a hold of this Bob Griese card, and he took a big bite out of it. So I remember we always had a Bob Griese in our collection with a big chew mark where the INS is of Dolphins in the upper right corner there. So every time I see this card, it reminds me of sorting cards back in those days, and the dog coming in the room and walking on our cards. And then I had a lot of hockey cards as a kid. My brother had way more than me, and we had all kinds of 80, 81, 82 hockey cards. And Gretzky is not my favorite player, but this was a card I always thought of, or always think of, when I look back on those days of collecting cards of hockey and sorting all those cards in our rooms and just having stacks of cards everywhere. And probably had a ton of these cards, and this is really one that means a lot to me. So I just think of those days when I see that card. And then this card here, he was the last player that I truly, I would say, like, idolized. I loved Mark McGwire, and I was just a preteen in 87 when this card came out, and I had a paper route, and I remember going to this guy's house who was a card dealer, and I bought this set for like $12 or something, and I just had to have this card. McGwire was the hottest player that summer. I was going over to the convenience store buying packs of 87 Donruss just to get this card, and this is just a card that, to me, just evokes so many memories of, really, like I said, the last player that I looked up to because he was older than I was. And then nowadays it's not the same because, players are younger than I am, and I don't look up to them like I did your heroes when you're a kid. So he was really the last of the heroes for me growing up, was Mark McGwire. So this card has a special place in my heart. And then this card here is the first card of Mickey Mantle that I ever owned. I had a paper route again, and I saved my money. I put it on layaway at the card store. And again, this isn't the original one I owned. It wasn't in as good a shape as this one is. This card's in beautiful shape. And The one I had was in good shape, but not like this. And I just remember, you know, saving my money, putting it on layaway. And then I got that card home, and I used to, you know, I put it in one of those big, thick plastic cases they had back then, the screw downs, and I just, you know, loved it. I just stare at it for, I wouldn't say hours, but for long periods of time, because it was just, I was like, I finally own a Mickey Mantle. It was like the greatest day of my card collecting life. And then this last one is special to me because when I turned 30, my wife bought me this card. And it's just one that will never leave my hands. It just means a lot to me that she thought of me that highly to spend. We didn't have a lot of money back then. Not that we have a ton of money now, but especially back then. And it just meant a lot to me that she got that for me for my 30th birthday. And Ted Williams reminds me a lot of my grandfather. You know, my grandfather played baseball, and he kind of had a demeanor like Ted Williams, and kind of looked like him too, real big guy like Ted Williams was. And I just, you know, whenever I see this card, I think of him, and I think of my wife. And besides the fact that it's just a beautiful card on top of that, but I love the yellow background. But it just means a lot to me. So just wanted to share this little collecting journey of my top 10. I hope that you enjoy it. And again, you know, I look forward to doing these videos. I know there's a lot of times the top 10s are like your top 10 most valuable cards and all that monetarily, but I'm trying to do something different where I want to show like things like my top 10 favorite cards, top 10, you know, best, you know, photos on cards. I'm going to do a lot of different things with this series, I think. And I just want to thank you for watching my videos and all the support I've been given, and really enjoying being part of the community. Have a great night.